finally, you got a real fight on your hands, motherfuckers. So one of Johnny Depp's lawyers, Wayne Dennison, the Brown Rudnick lawyer who did that great cross-examination of Amber's ridiculous witness, Dr. Dawn Hughes, if you'll remember, exposed her as being absolutely loopy. But Wayne Dennison has spoken out in an interview about Jay-Z's strategy that he and his lawyers, particularly Alex Spiro, have employed the last several weeks, apparently, in their fight against the big shot Houston lawyer, Tony Busby, who brought this lawsuit against Jay-Z on behalf of a woman who claims that she was assaulted by Jay-Z and Diddy after a VMA Awards, 2 decades ago or so. And so Jay-Z and his team have been fighting back very aggressively. Now, Tony Busby is accusing them in a lawsuit that he's filed against them of using unfair and unethical tactics, such as going around trying to gin up lawsuits against Tony Busby by his own former clients. And so it's very hard to separate fact from fiction in all of this. What we do know absolutely is that the lawsuit against Jay-Z brought by Busby and this woman has absolutely been discredited by all of the many errors in her statement in the lawsuit. And this was exposed by NBC News. Shockingly, the mainstream media actually did its job on this occasion. And they did an interview with this woman, Jay-Z's only accuser, by the way, from behind a screen. And as they showed this interview, presented this interview, they also debunked various claims that she made. And so, and more and more of these claims that she made in her lawsuit have been debunked. She claimed that she had an extensive conversation with Benji Madden about tattoos. Well, it turns out Benji Madden and his brother were across the country doing a concert. She claimed that she watched the Jumbotron at the VMAs, outside the VMAs or wherever, but there was no Jumbotron that year. She claims things that logistically just couldn't have happened, that she was driven to a huge white mansion 20 minutes from the VMAs, that she was able to approach Diddy's driver outside the VMAs when it turns out that all of that was extensively blocked off. Her own father, who she claims drove 5 hours to come and pick her up after she'd been assaulted in the middle of the night by Diddy and Jay-Z. The father has gone on record with NBC and debunked that, said, I think I would remember that, and I don't, and on and on and on. So this woman's story is BS. And in fact, NBC even conceded that she had earlier in her life had a massive head injury. And basically, as a disclaimer, saying, we can't back up what this lady's saying. She may not even be totally there. But this is the lawsuit that Buzbee, this lawyer who is representing 130 or so claimants against Sean Combs' Diddy, has brought against Jay-Z. And it's the only thing so far that he is accused of in a lawsuit on the record. And it's been debunked, as I said. But Jay-Z has employed a very aggressive, unusual, unprecedented strategy in fighting back against this. He has sued the lawyer, Tony Busby himself, who brought this woman's suit against him. He has sued him for basically extortion. And you can look it up, but Jay-Z claims that he, like many other celebrities, was sent a demand letter and he was pressured to go into, to basically make a deal with Buzbee, or to go into a mediation process that would produce a settlement amount and basically sign a check to make it all go away. And while a lot of celebrities apparently have done that, Jay-Z is not doing that. And instead, he has gone on the offense. And his team, including the famed lawyer Alex Spiro, have been fighting back against Buzbee, against the lawyer. And in the past several weeks, there have been multiple lawsuits also brought against Buzbee from former clients of his, or we've learned at least in the past several weeks of past lawsuits that have been brought against Buzbee, alleging everything about this lawyer from theft to coercion, to giving a woman a venereal disease, and then falsifying legal medical records to make it look like her ex-husband had done instead. I mean, there's some wild things now being alleged about this Buzbee guy. So separating fact from fiction on all this is going to be extremely difficult, and I'm not going to try to do it here. But I will say that it is a bold strategy for a man who has been accused or sued for something like Jay-Z to then turn around and go after the lawyer bringing the suit. And not only going after him in his extortion lawsuit, perhaps in other ways under the table, it's not clear yet, but also going after him aggressively in the media and putting out, regularly for his fans and followers, aggressive statements of his innocence and also aggressive statements against Buzbee. And so one of Johnny Depp's lawyers, Wayne Dennison, who cross-examined Dawn Hughes during the trial and did a lot of other work for Depp, he has been quoted in Newsweek going on the record and talking about this. And basically what he says is that this is a new and novel strategy. And he says this will likely, quote, likely serve as a model for other celebrities who are eventually implicated in some manner like this. Quote, Jay-Z and his legal team have taken an aggressive but very likely right approach from a long-term public relations perspective. The best defense is often a very strong offense. He said that unlike Jay-Z, there will probably be some celebrities who will choose to settle, sounds like many celebrities who will choose to settle claims rather than bear the risk of public scrutiny. And elsewhere, he has been quoted, this lawyer Dennison, as saying that it's particularly smart, and other people have been noting this in the legal community, that it's particularly shrewd to choose for Jay-Z and his team to choose to go after the lawyer here instead of the woman who's alleging she's a victim. And what they're doing is they're painting false accusers like this woman as basically also being the victims of manipulative, self-interested, unethical lawyers like Tony Busby. And I think that is a really smart approach because there are people who have a lot of sympathy for accusers, even to a degree for false accusers as damaged, troubled women, who have a lot less sympathy for lawyers that are on Instagram constantly bragging about their Lamborghinis and their private jets and the exotic animals that they own on their farm in Texas, Buzbee. A lot less sympathy for that shit, especially when alongside that, we find out in the last several weeks all of these allegations against Buzbee for various unethical conduct as a lawyer. This lady, who knows if it's true, right? Presumption of innocence. Although I have a lot less desire for a presumption of innocence in a case of someone like Buzbee, who has been for years basically trampling on the presumption of innocence for other accused people, but whatever. And ginning up all kinds of lawsuits. Some of them perhaps deserved, yes, but in Jay-Z's case, I believe has been exposed as not being deserved. But a guy like this, who knows if these allegations against him are true, but there is a former client of his and a former girlfriend who is claiming that several years ago, they had a sexual relationship that she says she believes she was coerced into. There's that word coerced. They had a sexual relationship that she was basically, she says, coerced into, and that he gave her a venereal disease, a sexually transmitted infection that he had not disclosed to her. And then later, when she divorced her husband, she claims that Buzbee, as her divorce lawyer, went into her medical records, her legal medical records, and falsified them to make it seem that the ex-husband had given her the STD and not Buzbee himself. Now, these are some crazy ass allegations. If you've got this lawyer who is giving STDs to women and then taking them on as clients in divorce settlements and then falsifying records to make it look like the opposing party, the ex-husband, had in fact given her this STD. I mean, crazy, crazy, crazy. But I think it's great that attention is being turned on the lawyers in this. And I think that people should not be able to file false claims with impunity. And I think that if Jay-Z's team begins a precedent of lawyers being shamed for encouraging false allegations and bringing false allegations into the public forum, if they are able to successfully shame this guy and put some fear, hopefully, in lawyers in the future that they might become targets in the public forum for retaliation, just retaliation, I think, if they are encouraging and soliciting and bringing forth these false claims, I think that is great. And I understand that there's some concern that Jay-Z's team might be playing dirty, and I don't claim to know. Again, it's very hard to separate because his team denies stuff, Buzbee's team alleges things, and so forth. But I will say this, not to excuse playing dirty, but this was a game that was made dirty by false accusers and unethical lawyers pushing cases, soliciting cases, pushing them, encouraging them when they often know that they're bullshit. just to line their pockets. And this was a game in which very up until recently, it was assumed that if a woman claimed something that she was telling the truth. And this has been a game for years now where the man accused of misconduct basically has almost no tools at his disposal with which to fight. It has not been a fair fight for these types of Me Too claims. It has not been a fair fight for years and years and years. And so I think what's happened is that Jay-Z, these people finally found a target who believes he's innocent, will assert his innocence, and who has a $2 billion net worth with which he can really fight. And he can pay lawyers whatever he needs to pay them. And these lawyers, this Alex Spiro guy, they figured out that it's a dirty fight and that they're going to have to get into the mud. And part of that is going after the attorney, Tony Busby, who started all this shit. Again, to what extent are they using ethical above board means? To what extent are they not? All of this stuff will be coming out and will be hashed out in litigation. But Johnny Depp's attorney is clearly impressed with the precedent that's being set here. And I don't know if he's referring literally to everything that Alex Spiro and Jay-Z's people have been doing up to this point. I think it's more of a larger appraisal of a very aggressive strategy, a very unafraid, unapologetic, unashamed strategy. And one that says to the opposition, finally, you got a real fight on your hands, motherfuckers.